This is the one I was alluding to earlier, where the female attorney came in slacks and sweater, and the judge didn't think that was appropriate attire, and got his hand slapped for that.
Well, I mean, it was really it was an appeal of a contempt of court determination, and she was, the appellate division threw out the contempt of court sanction for her. But I can't imagine there was an era where judges would actually sanction a female attorney for her clothing.
You know, in that case, I found it curious that many times when they use the word contempt, they put quotation marks around it, almost like air quotes, so-called contempt.
Again, this goes back to what kind of, like, let's say we had an attorney who showed up in your court and was not wearing a tie, okay? Male attorney. Do you have any problem with that? Would you say anything to him? Would you certainly, I can't imagine you'd say anything on the record.
Well, I've had attorneys who show up without a coat, and luckily they acknowledge their problem. You know, they had a problem. They spilled coffee on the way in all over their coat. I'm sorry, Judge. I would very carefully try to counsel a lawyer if they didn't have a tie or came in a t-shirt, that's not appropriate attire for a courtroom.
But I imagine you would do it in chambers. You're not going to do this on the record, right?
Yeah, not on the record.
Because
I'll tell you a funny aside. I started out in North Wildwood in 1986, and we had night court, and we started at 7 o'clock. And half of my courtroom would be in bathing suits with t-shirts over them, or lifeguards and flip-flops and their life. So, I had standing room only. If I wanted to make everybody come back in business casual, I would never get anybody back in court. So I had to deal with it.
What about a more modern era where we're doing everything through Teams or Zoom? I think the AOC, their preference is that attorneys dress like they were standing in a regular courtroom. Did you?
They do. Yeah, I found that. They were very well dressed.
So, I mean, has your experience been that most of the attorneys who are showing up on Zoom are also appropriately dressed?
Yeah, since I've had defendants who were not appropriately dressed, and I would tell them that I don't think you're in proper attire for a municipal court. We're going to drop you from the Zoom. You have the link. You can get dressed and call back in. We'll be here.
See, there's a distinction between something that would demonstrate bias or prejudice and something that's going to disrupt the solemnity of the court. It's a challenge or a threat to the austerity, dignity, and decorum we were talking about before. A defendant who would show up not wearing a shirt at all, that to me is something that is, when you instruct that defendant, listen, you got to be appropriately dressed when you're appearing in a public courtroom. That's not a manifestation of bias as far as I'm concerned. And what do you think about that, Judge, especially in North Wildwood?
Yeah, I would not let them appear in court that way. And if it's Zoom, I would tell them, we're going to drop you from the call right now. You can call back in. You have the link. I'll hear your case as long as you're dressed appropriately.